I was gifted a super special fabric with a really interesting print, border prints where it's not the same anywhere, and maybe you wonder what to do with them. I'm going to give you an idea. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have a pair of pants to share with you. It is a pattern I've made in the past. The ideas I bring you can work with any pant pattern really. The interesting thing about this one was the fabric. At the end of November, I was gifted some fabric from Tami, who is the owner of Love Notions. She did a sort of secret Santa exchange where we were paired up with different ambassadors, so someone else chose the fabric for me. So really fun. That person went onto my profile, sort of try to figure out the type of fabric that I would like, and the choice was really spot on to what I like. I have sewn quite a bit of projects using border prints and just printed a little bit out there, a little bit loud. It is part of the style that I like. And the person that got my name to choose fabric for me was Whitney from TomKat Stitchery, and she chose the fabric spot on, like all the colors in there, everything super pretty. I decided to make a pair of pants, a pattern that was really fresh in my mind because I'd made it maybe about a month before, and it's a summer key pants from Love Notions, and I really like it. I'd made two already. Both of the ones I'd made were in linen structured fabric. I think it really shows off the tulip hem detail, which is optional, but it's so pretty, why not? And the second pair, I also used a linen rayon blend in a sort of dark red burgundy color, really pretty. And I thought, why not make that same pattern in a lightweight rayon? I mean, I knew it was gonna feel amazing. I just hadn't made the pattern in a flowy fabric. It's always a good choice with a wide leg pant because it's just a different look. I guess with the linen, it looks a little bit more voluminous because it's structured. It makes the leg just stand out away from the body. And in this case, with the rayon, it's going to just flow and be beautiful. Me pongo a pensar. Before I show you how I cut this and how this fabric came to be into pants, I mean the design of how I placed the pattern pieces, I wanted to remind you that Love Notions is having a New Year's sale. Site-wide, every single pattern there, 30% off. You don't need to type in a special code to get the 30% off. But if you do use my code, lifting10 at checkout, you get an extra 10% off on top of the 30% off. Always look in the description box for the updated code because that code can change. At this point, it's lifting10, so remember that one when you check out and buy your favorite patterns. Let's get into how these pants came to be. You're gonna see how I'm trying to pattern match a little bit and how I wanted the print to be on these pants, and also a waistband modification that I really like. I'm not doing pockets on these. I do like the original pockets, and I have sewn the pockets with the linen versions because I think it's appropriate. It's a type of pocket that goes all across the front, so you don't have a separate pocket on one hip and a separate pocket on the other. The pocket bag extends the whole front and it feels really nice on. These are pull-up pants. They have a flat front elasticated waistband, which means that the waistband at the back is big to match the pants, and then you have elastic at the back. But I wanted to have a partial yoga waistband, which is something I really like. And so I don't have the woven fabric at the back. I have a cotton spandex instead. No elastic, so I'm going to show you how that's done. Let's see. I have this rayon that has vertical stripe features, but they're not your typical stripes. They don't have the same width. There's print in between. There are these larger sort of squares going down. So it's quite interesting, and the only way I can pattern match is by cutting the legs in a single layer. So I'm going to be cutting 4 times, not twice. I don't have my fabric on the fold. I have it all extended. So on this half of the fabric, I'm going to cut this front layer first, and then flip it like that and cut it again. I wanted this larger red area to run down the center of the leg, going up and down. I also wanted to avoid having stripes here on the crotch area. I really dislike having stripes there. So this wide navy bit is going to be right there on the front crotch, so that's great. And then once I'm done cutting these front legs, I'm going to use the rest of the fabric that's hanging off the table. Now I have it like this just so you can see what I'm doing, but when I cut, I'm going to bring that fabric back onto the table so that it's not hanging and creating weight. It'll be an interesting type of cutting. Whenever you see fabric like this, it does take a bit of thought, and I think the cutting process takes a lot longer than if it was just any old print, but I think the end result is going to be super cool. And then I'm going to have a contrasting print on the tulip hem so that you can really see it. Okay, so after cutting the first front leg, I flipped it and I'm using the actual leg piece to cut out the second. That way I make sure that all the print is matching everywhere, especially in this section. You can see I'm going to have this big red thing going down the center, navy right there, so it'll be an interesting pair of pants. This is rayon. I'm being super careful with the handling. I'm going to stay stitch that waistline, of course. I'm also going to stay stitch this area right here so that it doesn't stretch out before I sew the tulip hem. So things I wouldn't normally do with my linen versions, I'm definitely going to do with these rayon versions. I'm not going to do the pockets here. I think the fabric is just too light for it. So no pockets there on the hip, no pockets on the back, patch pockets, none of that. It will just be simple pull-up pants, flowy fabric with a tulip hem right there. Then the same process I'm going to do on the back for the back pieces with the rest of the fabric that's right there. So when I was going to cut my back leg, I ran into an issue. I'm missing about maybe 12 inches of fabric in the length, which would account for the amount the fabric shrunk when I washed it. So I thought I'd bought just the right amount to make these pants. So when you make wide leg pants, you need a whole length for just one leg. So I usually need about 2.3 meters. That's what I usually buy for wide leg pants that are full length. The shrinkage process ate a little bit. So what I've done here is I've placed the bottom right at the edge, normal. And then at the top, I folded away some over there. So I've made it as high as it can go, leaving myself a 3/8 seam allowance there. And then this little fold here, I'm going to cut it as a separate yoke. Nothing fancy. It will just be another piece of fabric. And because we have some type of stripes going on here, I'm not going to attempt to pattern match that because I can't. Like my fabric is not going to match that. So I'm going to cut my yoke on the cross grain, sort of around this section. So I'm going to have that navy area mainly be the yoke right there. I think it'll look cool. It'll be like a design feature. And usually things like this happen when I run out of fabric. I just find of creative solutions. Like I'm not going to not make the pants just because I've run out of that amount of fabric, you know. It's like 4 inches, really. It's nothing, which would account for all the shrinkage that 2.5 yards would have in the length, you know. So that's the way I'm going to fix it. I'm just going to cut a little yoke from this piece, from that area there, add it on, and then pretend it was never there. The waistband for these pants is just one piece that has a center back seam. So this would be the center front seam that you cut on the fold, and then it extends, and at some point you'll find a triangle that will match the side seam. But I just want to have the curved waistband on the front with the main fabric. So I took my original waistband. This was where it started on the fold, found the triangle. I've marked it there in this new paper. And I've added 3/8 seam allowance there. So I know that this is going to fit my front. And so I've just extended it, put another piece of paper like that. And now I have one curved waistband only for the front that I'm going to cut twice with my main fabric. Because it's rayon, I'm going to interface both layers, the inner and the outer waistband, just to make it a little bit more structured. Now at the back, I want some cotton spandex. It's like a partial yoga waistband, but only at the back. So at the back, it will just be a rectangle. Now, you know there's going to be 2 layers here. So we're going to lose 3/8 seam allowance on the top and on the bottom. I do need that seam allowance on the bottom for my yoga waistband, but I don't need that one on the top because on the top it's going to be folded. So what I've done is just fold this. And you can see that fold is going to meet that seam, but it matches here at the bottom. So basically I measured from here down to the edge and multiplied that by 2. And that's how I get this one taller, but not counting this top seam allowance there. So that's how my back waistband is going to be. For the length of it, I measured my waist, divided that by 2 because it will only be at the back, and took about 2.5 inches. So it has negative V's at the back. So that's all. It's just a rectangle right there that I'm going to cut out of cotton spandex with the greatest stretch going this way, like that. These are the 2 front waistbands. I interfaced them both because it's a really lightweight rayon, so might as well. If it was a heavier fabric, then I would just interface the outer waistband. You can see it's curved. So I've sewn the top edge together. You can see it has this angle going out. So the longer edge is the bottom, the shorter edge is the top, and it's just been sewn together with 3/8. It is a little bit curved, so I am going to do some snips here before understitching this. In my case, these are exactly the same, like there's no preference here, so I'll just choose any of these layers to be the outer waistband. I'm just going to choose this one here on my right hand, and I'm going to push the seam allowance towards the inner waistband, the one that's going to go on the left hand. Those are just my choices, and that's how I'm going to understitch so that this inner layer stays inside. So that we can see the understitching when this waistband is nice and pressed. That understitching is going to keep the inner layer inside. For now, I'm just going to put this here on the table. I'm going to scrunch it up so it fits the camera frame. And now we just need to sew the knit waistband that I cut out. It's like a half a yoga waistband. And it's navy, it's going to match the pants. So I'm going to place these right sides together here at these short ends. I show you how I calculated this to match this exactly right here. So I'm going to sew these together with a narrow zigzag. So when I've sewn these two edges together, I'm going to end up with the waistband on the round. The front waistband is going to be the one made in woven, same rayon I'm using for the pants. And then at the back, I'm going to have a yoga waistband. At the back, it's going to be half a yoga waistband made out of cotton spandex. So this will replace the original waistband that these pants have that's made in woven with an elastic inside. So I'm just going to get these layers sewn. I've been to the iron and just pressed the waistband in half so that we have our wrong sides together. Remember, the front one has a seam, the back one doesn't, it's just a fold like that. And now I've put pins in the center front and the center back, and now I just have to match it up to the pants. Now with the back that's made with a knit, I'm going to have to stretch this to match the back like this, and that will bring it in instead of having a longer waistband with elastic inside. Here's the top of the pants. What you're seeing here is the front, and on this section the waistband just goes on 1-to-1 matches, and the yoga waistband matches the side seams right here. But then at the back, I've divided the back waist into 4, and you can see I've got them pinned there. There's an excess of the woven fabric compared to the knit, so I'm going to stretch this when I sew them together, and that is going to bring it all in. On this section where I'm sewing the knit waistband area, I'm using a zigzag stitch, very narrow one. Now that I've reached where I'm going to start the woven, I'm going to swap my stitch to just a regular straight stitch. See how at the back it looks like it's gathered, but it's actually not. It was just me pulling on the knit waistband to match this. You can see there's no gathers actually. It's just the knit waistband bringing it in. Then when you press it, you can barely tell those gathers are there. But this is small enough to hold your pants up and be super comfy. So now that that's sewn, just serge the edge and that's it. These are my new summer key pants. You can see that the print is really bold. There are these sort of squarish designs, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna have those down the front of my leg. I would rather have this down the front of my leg than going down the back of my legs where it would just highlight my bottom, I suppose. I'd rather highlight my front. So that's how I placed it, and I had to cut each of these pant legs individually, so 4. Usually you put your fabric on the fold and you cut your backs together, your fronts together, you know, but I had to mirror these. And you can see that I got a nice design here on the front, and everything matches, all the prints match, no pockets on the front, as I said. Please account for fabric shrinking when you're purchasing fabric. I sometimes forget about that, and at 2.3 meters, which in theory should match the length, because each front and each back takes a whole length of fabric. I'm like, I'll be sweet. But it shrunk quite a lot, and then I was missing just a little bit to finish the top of the back right here. So this is a yoke. I cut it cross grain, and I use this same type of print, so I cut it like this, and that's how it looks. I think it looks really cool. No one's gonna know. It fixed the problem of adding that extra length on the top. And here you can see my cotton spandex yoga waistband. It's united here with the front that's woven. And you know, if you know me, I'll never tuck in. I'm never looking to make waistbands super aesthetic. For me, they're just functional, and I'll never tuck in, so like ever. So the fact that I have a cotton spandex at the back does not bother me one little bit at all. I really love how they turned out. In the front, we have the tulip hem detail, and I made sure to match the prints right here also and mirror them so that they'd be the same on both sides. So that was really fun to do. If you want to see how to sew the tulip feature, watch the previous video because I filmed it in really good detail there. You can see how to do it really well there. It's the same on this side. I don't think it's a feature that is impossible to do with rayon. I do think it's fiddlier than doing it with linen for sure. You know, things can grow. You have to be really careful with your pieces to keep them the same shape and size so that they do fit that center that has that cut out like that. So I think that's the only aspect that you need to be sort of careful if you want to make these with the tulip hem with a fiddly fabric like this. But you know, hand basting goes a long way. I'm just so happy with these. I've paired them when you see them on now. I've got them with my navy sewist peplum top. The other color I would use is red if I wanted to pair it with something. All the other colors there I think are secondary. Those purple tones, I wouldn't use those to match these pants. I'd rather keep it navy or red. I think it would just look a bit more balanced. So let's see. These are the third summer key pants that I've made, but this time I used 100% rayon. I'd used linen in the past, and I've made them with this amazing border print that has a really striking print detail. I know it's not for everyone, but I love it, and it took a while to cut it out to have all this print business make sense. I think you can see the tulip hem there at the front. I think it's really pretty, and you can see how this fabric flows. It feels like you're wearing absolutely nothing. It's the most comfy, soft, fresh pair of pants I have, and I've paired it with my navy sewist peplum top. Here up closer you can see the flat front waistband that's curved, and then at the back I added a sneaky yoke to the print. You can see it changes. That's because I ran out of fabric. There's a yoga waistband that's only partial, and it's at the back. It makes these pull on super easy. And here's a closer look at the bottom, the hem detail. I think it's lovely. I love these pants for this hem. I think they're a really striking design, and they can look really different and feel really different if you use a flowy fabric like this, or if you use a more structured one like linen. Love them. I think these would be amazing in a tencel twill or a rayon twill. Little heavier fabrics, they wouldn't be that fresh. You know, if you're looking for in-between weather, those fabrics would be amazing also. And you'd get an amazing drape, but with a fabric that has a little bit more weight and warmth to them, I suppose. I would make this in a wool crepe if you wanted some warm pants, where you could put boots underneath and stuff. So just the fact that they're called summer key pants doesn't mean they have to be just for summer. You know, they can be for whatever you want, just depends on the fabric. I hope this gave you some ideas about what you can do with fabrics like this that are unusual, that have prints that don't repeat. You know, there's nothing going on that I could have cut in another way other than the way I did it, or else it would have looked really messy. So they take a little while to cut out and think, but I think then the results are super striking and super unique. So I'm always looking for fabrics like this, and Whitney's choice was just spot on. I love these types of fabrics, so I'm really grateful she chose an amazing one for me. Don't forget to check out the 30% off site-wide sale at Love Notions, and that's all from me. I'll see you again very soon. Bye.